September 17th in Las Vegas, a conclusion to an epic trilogy between two of the best fighters since the turn of the century. Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin for an undisputed clash, this time at 168 pounds. First of all, how significant could that weight be for a 40-year-old Gennady Golovkin, Darren?
Oh, huge. Getting down to 160 at 40, I know,
Yeah.
would be very difficult. So I think the weight suits Golovkin. But look, we had two epic fights already. So much controversy already in the two fights. So this will settle the score.
Okay, we're going to look back over the last 24 rounds, the lessons learned there, to see where we think the final fight between these two great fighters could be won and lost. So it feels like a long time ago these two first met. Obviously, it was the most anticipated fight, probably since Mayweather-Pacquiao, I would say. Canelo, uncharacteristically, was the first to give up ground. We didn't know who was going to be holding the ring. I think people suspected Golovkin would be. But did he give up ground a little too easy, in your opinion? Absolutely.
And I can understand why. Golovkin went into the fight renowned as one of the biggest punchers in world boxing, past and present.
Yeah.
You know, he really, the way he was dispatching opponents was with ease. Every time he hit someone.
And still is.
Exactly, and still is. So I can understand why Canelo approached the fight he did, but he just continued to do that far too often. And that allowed Golovkin just to get in a real momentum and push forward, and just really was able to let his hands go. I think one of the things that we should talk about as well was Canelo spending far too much time on the ropes. And don't get me wrong, he avoided a lot of shots, but he was caught far too often. And we know in the States, aggression can win you rounds. If there's close rounds and you're the aggressor on the front foot, that can be enough to win you the round. So there was plenty of good work that Canelo did while he was on the ropes. You know, like we were talking about the spin-off to avoid the right hand.
Do you want to head that way and let's have a look? So obviously, when typically Golovkin, he's got that dead straight jab, but then when he gets opponents onto the ropes, he throws really strange kind of arcing, chopping shots. The right hand really arcs over, and Canelo was essentially exiting, kind of peeling off to the left.
Yeah.
But what I guess he was doing, he wasn't giving himself the opportunity to counter until about 3 or 4 rounds in, until he started to, he'd exit to the left, but then he'd hold his feet and come
fire back,
get underneath
to the
with
body.
the left hook under the elbow.
Like we said, I expect this third fight to play out completely different. But if there are opportunities where, with Golovkin having this extra 8 pounds, he's feeling strong and he does manage to get Canelo onto the ropes, it's so important. When he does exit Canelo, he does fire back with a counter.
Yeah, so he was dropping outside the right hand, and he was throwing the left hook under the elbow.
Right or the left, so you're open there, so you've got the opportunity to throw either shot, head or body. He's so quick at spinning off and exiting Canelo. It's so important that when he does get out there, he fires back, because otherwise you can fall behind on the scorecards.
There's another counter that Canelo was throwing on the ropes that Golovkin made some adjustments to, and Canelo also throws it when he's at centre ring, and it's that pull uppercut. And we said we thought that might be the shot he got Billy Joe Saunders with, and it was. His kind of feet and balance changed a little bit from the first to the second fight. Canelo had his weight a little bit further over the back foot to give him just a little bit of extra time to see what's coming, but also to still be in range.
Yeah, because that enhances your ability to be able to attack and defend.
Yeah.
When you're almost centred, but I prefer it just being slightly on the back foot. That doesn't mean you can't be aggressive on the front foot, but you're just able there to spring in or spring out.
So when Golovkin was throwing that right hand, he'd get outside of it at centre ring, and then the left hook will come to the body.
And the body. And then also with the shot you're talking about, where he's here, comes over the front foot with a jab. That right uppercut.
Yeah, so come over, bang.
He's so quick with it. You can see how hurtful it is. I mean, what the damage it done to Billy Joe Saunders.
Well, Golovkin, he kind of shells up, doesn't he? And it makes shots very hard to. He kind of slides shots off the shoulders and off the top of his head, because he tucks right under. But of course, what that can sometimes lead to when he is right over his front foot is being a little bit exposed to that uppercut. He was closing right up through the middle in anticipation of that uppercut, but that's a shot that you think Canelo might have some success with in the third fight.
Yeah, what I think Canelo does so well, doesn't matter who he fights, the way he varies his attack. So he'll go wide with the body shots or the hooks, and then he'll come up through the middle with the uppercuts. Or he'll start with the uppercut and go wide. So if I tap with the left uppercut, go wide with the body.
Yeah, we'll go wide to the body, and then up through the middle. Same hand, bang, bang,
He loves that, and I think body shots are so important for Canelo in this fight. We see the damage that Murata was doing to Golovkin early on in that fight. You could see that they were really hurting him, they left to the body. So I think for Canelo to target the body of the older man, to slow him down, to break up that momentum that Golovkin will try and get with that extra 8 pounds is so important.
Because in that first fight, Canelo was overreactive to Golovkin sort of looking like he was going to trigger the right hand, and what he was doing, as the fight went on, all he needed to do was just turn that shoulder as if he was going to throw, and Canelo would kind of step right out, and that was how he manoeuvred him around. Second fight, Canelo, I don't think at any point in the fight, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they didn't spend any time on the ropes whatsoever, the pair of them. They stayed right in what you call the box within the box. They stepped around each other, they battled with the jab consistently. With Golovkin, key to keeping Canelo at bay and breaking up his rhythm, I know you think is his left hand. One of the best jabs possibly in the history of the middleweight division, obviously now up at 168, but it is a hell of a weapon, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's so important. Not only is it a hurtful shot, but it breaks any rhythm that Canelo gets. The only thing I found with Golovkin in both fights is at times, and I feel silly saying this because he's such a great champion, he knows exactly what he's doing, but he does get in the habit of pouring out the jab at times, and that gives someone who can counterpunch as fast and as powerful as Canelo a real opportunity to do so.
Does it not disguise the hurtfulness of the shot if someone's not always giving you the kind of 9 out of 10 jab, though? Is that not the counter argument?
It's just the frequency of that pouring jab.
Right.
Someone as good as Canelo will counter, and he did numerous times.
Yeah, over the right hand.
I just feel like instead of giving someone the opportunity, just feint. You haven't got to throw that. I understand when you're in close, you can tap away. Not everything has to be really hard to disguise the power, because you'd be surprised. But when you're in a contest and your opponent's loading up, after a few rounds, you do kind of get used to that kind of weight on the shot. So if you disguise that with tapping shots, it does make life a little bit difficult. But I just feel when you've got such a hurtful weapon in that left jab, throw it properly. Don't pour it out.
Yeah.
You know, really, really, like I say, it's hurtful, but it breaks up any rhythm that Canelo was trying to get into.
You mentioned we'll talk about Canelo's footwork and his head position just slightly further over that back foot, and you see the rhythm with which he brings his guard up and down. When he's just in range, the guard comes up. When the hands come down, when he's out of range, and there's that. And you see Golovkin occasionally timing him on that and realising that actually if he feints the jab, just brings those hands up, knowing they'll come down a split second later, then thumps that jab through the middle. I guess it's just a simple jab off a feint, but it's educated. He's thinking about what he's doing.
You cannot make a mistake. I mean, when you watch those fights, it's high level intelligence.
Oh, the concentration's unbelievable.
Like the concentration from start to finish. You know, and if one of them did switch off for a split second, they got caught. And that's what I'm saying. These little adjustments, the feint upstairs, and just get that reaction. If they see a sniff of an opening, they will make you pay.
Just that feint.
And down. You know, they'll do it every single time. And I feel the feint is so important. But I guess in a nutshell, for me, it's about Golovkin being able to hold the centre ring. And there was times in the first fight where, yes, Canelo gave up too much ground, but there was almost times where Golovkin was running into Canelo, just really getting into a rhythm and a real sort of forward march, and just allowed him to get his work off. I think on the flip side, Canelo's got to be busy, he's got to be smart, he can't give up the ground. I think battle of the front foot's going to be interesting. Yep. I don't think Canelo, after being in there with light heavyweights, etc., I don't think he's going to go out any ground. I think after watching the Murata fight and seeing Murata hurt Golovkin early, I must admit, I thought Golovkin looked old early on in that fight. I think Canelo's really going to go for this and think, I can be the first to stop him, Golovkin. But for Golovkin, it's about trying to somehow, look, how many times have you heard it? The last thing a fighter loses is their power. Yeah. Can he hurt Canelo? Can he land one flush on the chin? We see a couple where Canelo takes this thing out of the shot. But can he land that one shot that could end Canelo?
You'd think that the £8 would just give Golovkin something a little bit extra, because presumably he's sparring somewhere between 170, 173 on a regular basis. So for him, 168, he's going to feel a lot fresher, because we've actually seen him look quite unwell on the scales at times. I remember being at the Kell Brook fight and thinking he looked so drawn and gaunt, and he has done in a couple of his contests. He will be fresh and full, even though he is an old fighter now. We saw against Murata, there's still something left, as you said, that the hands are still there. this weight could just unlock that last 5% that makes this, once again, a very, very close fight.
I think, if I'm honest, look, Golovkin's a great champion, but he is 40 years old. He is aging. He's had his best days are behind him. We have to be honest there. I think this is that extra £8 is what makes this fight as competitive as it can be. I think if down at 160 is only one winner.
It's Canelo's fight.
Canelo completely, wins this. I would say with ease, if I'm honest, but that extra £8 is what makes it interesting. He needs that, Golovkin. He needs that at this age now. And like we've touched on, his power, that extra £8 will add to the power of the shot.
It'll be very, very interesting to see how Canelo holds those shots up at 168. All would be revealed as round number 25 kicks off September 17th, live from Las Vegas. Undisputed world super middleweight titles on the line. Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin go at it a third time.